Hi guys, I'm broadcasting to you from my home in Cape Town, South Africa. I just wanted to reach out and be here for those of you who are interested in using this time where we are in quarantine and lockdown to overcome those aspects of ourselves that need attention but don't really get the attention that they need because we're in such a fast-paced um, rat race kind of a world. And on the one hand, it's horrific what's happening, and it's bizarre and like just something out of some strange science fiction slash Orwellian um, nightmare. But at the same time, we have to focus on what we can do to use this time most constructively. So, with that in mind, I was thinking about how a time like this can really operate as a mirror. And by that I mean that we're in this kind of environment, this kind of quarantine lockdown environment, we're really confronted with ourselves. Not in the sense that you look into a mirror and you see your reflection, your external reflection, but in the sense that you look into the mirror of what's in front of you and what you're feeling, what you're experiencing, and that's the mirror. And that's what's giving you feedback as to really who you are, how you operate, what your mindset is, what bothers you about yourself, what you love about yourself, where you feel like, wow, I'm really okay in this, or I'm showing up for myself and for my family and for my friends and for my community with an attitude that I'm really, really comfortable with, and grateful that I've been able to cultivate in myself. Or you might be thinking, wow, I haven't been able to address those things that make me super anxious or um, keep me in states of fear, and I realize I need more courage, and I realize I need more balance, and I need more equanimity. So whatever it is, it could be a combination. There might be days when you wake up and you're like, I'm good. I'm all right with this. Like I'm going to meditate. I'm going to do my yoga practice. I'm going to do some writing. I'm going to work on tidying my household, doing things I haven't been able to do because I've been caught up in the rat race. And there might be other days you wake up and you're just paralyzed because you don't understand how this can be happening, where it's going, and how you're going to be coping over the long term. And maybe that's making you incredibly anxious, and maybe you're seeing yourself going into hoarding or um, whatever it is. Okay, there's so many things. Maybe your tempers are flaring, and maybe you're working really hard to contain a temper that you fear under a quarantine situation might reach maximum capacity. And maybe you're worried about how you're going to be able to manage your emotions over the long term. Maybe you're dealing with extreme loneliness because of this. Maybe you're finding out you're realizing you have addictions and patterns that are exacerbated by this kind of situation. So what I encourage you all to do is use it as a mirror, and not as an unconscious mirror, which is what's happening for most people. They're going to have this experience but not understand that it's really reflecting themselves back to them. And making a conscious mirror enables you to really utilize and make constructive the things that you see: the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, the deep, the profound, the poetic, the exceptional, the there's so many facets. It's hardly a mirror. It's a prism. So just with that in mind, let's just start by recognizing and establishing the fact that this quarantine, isolation, lockdown period is a mirror, and everything's a mirror. Like, it's a mirror when you're in your workspace. Whatever you do is reflecting something of yourself back to you. So it's not to say that this is a mirror and that's not a mirror. They're all mirrors, but this is a particular. The reason that this mirror is so helpful is because the external mirrors that you have when you get dressed and go about your day and you're mixing with the world, you're really dealing with your superficial self, the self that you put out into the world, and you get this feedback. So if you're really good at what you do, or or you're not, or like you're miserable at your job, or you have your dramas with people in your workplace or in your family, and things are also moving really swiftly. So you move on from you know something at the office to something in the family to something to do with your physicality, your health, and it's like the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, and that doesn't really give us the chance to say, okay, what is this really showing us? And even when we do, again, it's that external interfacing with the world reflection that you're getting, as opposed to the who am I? How do I react and respond? And what are my feelings? What comes up for me in situations where there is a real life crisis? And for many of you, this may be part of a more complex life crisis. Maybe some of you are having, we're in the midst of life crises when this came along, and it's like, okay, well, it's exponentially now amplified. So this is a gift to be able to see this as a mirror, and if we can be really honest with ourselves for once in our lives and take this opportunity as a kind of, I don't want to say boot camp because I don't want to make it seem like it's like this negative thing, or that it's again, boot camp is kind of an external thing. It's like, how strong can I be? How fierce can I be? No, it's actually how much can I listen? It's, if we think about the rat race of the world as the yang energy, that quintessential, say functional, but this quintessential functional male energy. It's the active energy, that active aspect of life, and the yin as being the receptive, the thoughtful, the quiet. Think of yin as the nighttime and yang as the daytime. Yin is the moon and yang is the sun. So we live in this very yang world, and sometimes it's functionally yang, but most of the time it's actually dysfunctionally yang, because it's not necessarily utilizing anyway the powers of the divine masculine. It's usually the masculine energy gone amok. This striving to do without the reflection of being. Okay, so doingness is yang, beingness is yin. And so now we have this opportunity to be very yin, but we're so hot-wired for a yang world. So that's also something that's going to come up for people. It's like, well, I'm so used to doing, I'm not used to being, and I'm certainly not used to being in a yin environment. In the home, home is yin. The office place, the workplace, schools, hospitals, operational places, political arenas, and media, and vehicles, and all of these things are yang. So now it's like there's no vehicles, we're not traveling, we're not going about and doing life. We're having to stay and be insular. So one of the things that concerns me most about people who are in this situation, who are so hot-wired for a yang world, is that you might, because you're so hot-wired for doing, because yang is doing, then you might find yourself doing for the sake of doing, moving for the sake of moving, and having your mind active for the sake of having your mind active. And that is when we are not mindful. So mindfulness is essential right now. Mindfulness goes with yin energy perfectly. And you can be functionally in yin space if you're mindful. But it means that if you're going and doing and your mind is overactive, because it has to be in the rat race and keep up, and everything is nonstop, and the stress and the anxiety that goes with having to do all the things, tick all the boxes, especially if you've got kids and you've got so many responsibilities. There's hardly a moment to even think about yourself, but yet you do. So you've got yourself, your kids, your business, maybe parents are taken care of, maybe your kids have special needs. There's so many factors. It's endless. Taking care of the house, taking care of your car, taking it for, it's nonstop. So everything's having to stop in a way, in a big way, but in a way that a lot of people aren't comfortable with. They would rather be about the doing because that's what they're used to. They're not used to the being. So what happens typically is that you start doing, like going to the kitchen and going to the refrigerator, and just because you're not comfortable with the space, you're not used to it. So you're going to have to recognize what those tendencies are, note them, and this is the hard part, but this is the necessary part. You're going to have to rise above them. Know that those inclinations toward dysfunctional yang energy, that hot wiring to do, which is also to consume. Remember, the yang is the space inside. The yin is the space inside. Forgive me. The yang is the space and the doing on the outside. So here you have this situation where you have this yang energy, but the yin inside doesn't want all that yang energy inside. It's like it wants to stay yin. It wants to stay peaceful. So if we start putting stuff into our bodies, and we're overdoing that, because we already do that too much. I mean, that's already a big enough problem. But add to it this state of nothing to do. It's the tendency to overeat and to overconsume is, if you're not careful, going to become a problem, and it's going to seriously derail you. So recognize it as a tendency to do, which you need to rise above, which comes from awareness and comes from mindfulness. Rising above basically means that you take any situation where there's the path of least resistance, which is the easy thing to do, the thing that doesn't require mindfulness, the thing that you're just going to do as a reactionary measure. I'm bored, I'm going to go to the kitchen. I'm bored, so I'm just going to keep sitting on my phone and seeing if something comes up on my Facebook feed that's worth paying attention to. I'm bored, so I'm going to, I don't know, create a drama. I mean, that does happen, believe it or not. People, just like they cannot even stand the peace. They're not used to peace. Peace doesn't have a familiar resonance with them. So they will create drama just because it's easier for them than peace. So if that's the case for you, be honest with yourself about it. Look at it and say, oh my gosh, look at this. This is what I do. Like I can't even just be peaceful with myself, for 3 weeks or something. And it is a long time to have to be in a because on the one hand, the functional or the dysfunctional yang rat race energy is not good, but on the other hand, we are supposed to be moving and connecting and being social and experiencing all the flavors of one another in a beautiful kind of orchestra of life. We're not meant to be isolated. We're not meant to be insular. Which is like being an island. So we're not meant to be that. So So basically, keep a beady eye on your inclinations right now. They're going to be the greatest gift for you. This mirror can serve you as a great gift if you just watch them, watch what your tendencies are, and then when you catch them in the act, this is where you grow, right? This is where you grow. You grow when you can see what the path of least resistance is, and you can say, actually, I got that number. Like, I know what's happening here, and I'm not going to do it because I know that the path of least resistance is going to lead to my unraveling, to my disintegration, to my demise. Maybe in a very small way at first. Maybe it's like, well, it's really no big deal. This appeals to me right now. Oh, and then, of course, there's the excuses. Oh, but I'm under quarantine. Oh, but like, I need some pleasure because this is all so horrific. Oh, but I'm in so much fear. Oh, maybe the world's going to end anyway, so maybe I should just eat this thing now. I mean, like, live while you can kind of thing. But that's exactly the opposite, and that doesn't serve your soul. So if we're here for our soul to grow, which is what I tell everybody, we're here for our soul force to grow. That's the whole point. Then it's not going to serve that modus operandi if we engage in lower tendencies, because then we're not flexing our soul force muscle. Then we're actually allowing that to be atrophied. So this is an amazing opportunity to get stronger and to become and to overcome, to shape shift, to transform those inclinations, those tendencies that are not what you want to move through life with in the future. Almost think of it as hit the pause button, clean up your act, and then you go back to life. And hopefully, if enough people can do that, life will be so different on the other side of all this. And if it is really an Orwellian nightmare that we're faced with, we will have a kind of a courage. We'll have a sense of strength of self, of willpower. That overcoming of willpower in small ways enables you to overcome big things in big ways. So let's use this as an opportunity to, in effect, build ourselves up to a point where A, we're not in fear, and B, we wouldn't be able to be taken like that. That if we are going to go down that road and talk about that potential Orwellian scenario, it only happens if you have a bunch of mindless people who are so addicted and afraid that they will collude and give their power away because they're not used to being strong. If you're used to being strong, if you take this time to build your body, to clean your body, to clean your house, to clean up your inner tendencies that aren't advantageous to your being, then you're not going to be able to be taken advantage of like that. And imagine if enough people use this time to strengthen these fields and to release these lower tendencies and to refashion themselves, to reshape ourselves, then we're not going to be sitting ducks for what we would have been if we didn't do those things. So it's a huge opportunity. It's almost like a grace period, if we want to look at it that way. Like, here's some time to do this. I know a lot of you are apoplectically fearing for your financial situation, for maybe the people that you employ, that or the people that you work for, that you just don't know what's going to happen. And there's all these question marks. But one thing there's not a question mark about, and that is soul force. And your soul force, your soul, is bigger than all of these issues. So it's so easy to get caught up in what's going to happen and how am I going to be affected. That's your earth life. And I know it's hard to get over that, but at a certain point, in a certain way, you have to, because it's going to keep you in this really small space. This is an opportunity for you and for all of us to realize that those things that we've been assuming were important, and if we didn't do them, and if we didn't operate along these lines, that the world would end. Well, they weren't the things that kept the world going. And in fact, there are things that of true value, of true worth. And if you lost those, then the world would really end, and that's losing your soul. That's losing the fortitude of that which you're put together with, which is, we go under all of the subatomics, and we go behind the electron, and we get into the neutrino, and we realize it's light. And where does that light come from? Well, it's the source from the force. It's the force of the source. It's so much deeper. So it's an opportunity to remember that if indeed we're here for a bigger purpose, not just to feed the rat race and keep the machine going, then here we have a really amazing opportunity to use this time as a mirror, as a still point to reassess and recalibrate, and use it as a gift, so that whatever happens, your soul force will not have been depleted. It will have increased. And again, I can't stress enough, it's a mirror. Use the mirror to see what you don't like, to see what you do like, to see what needs to change. In the political arena, it's always about, well, we want to see change. Somebody bring us some change, and there'll be all the bravoing around the presidential candidate or political leader who, can convince people that they are the most likely to bring change. Now, the change has to happen in us. And here's a beautiful opportunity for us all to see what needs to change and not to deflect our eyes. Look at it. It's okay. We all have this stuff. We had information and directives and programming, cultural conditioning poured into us from even before we were born. So it's not surprising that we're imperfect, that we're not totally in our soul force and growing it and fully connected to life in every way. It's no surprise. But are we just going to accept that and say, well, we were victimized by our culture and by society, and so we are how we are, and now we're going to live out the rest of our days just, because that's the way it is, or are we going to say, oh my goodness, look at what I really am. I really am this soul force being, and I have an opportunity now to clean up the things that don't belong in my space because, they really aren't authentically what I am. So I hope you will use it as a mirror, and we can talk about some of the things. I'm happy for, if you guys let me know what the things are that are coming up. I mean, for example, I was just driving because our actual lockdown quarantine starts on Thursday night here in Cape Town, and I was driving just earlier, and this woman really lost her temper with the driver next to me who didn't stop at the crosswalk, or he did stop, but he didn't stop early enough to make her feel confident that she could cross the street safely. And she went ballistic on him. Like, I'd never seen this before. And I mean, I don't know when I'd seen anyone behave like this over something like this, because he did stop. He was just, I suppose, like I said, she was not satisfied by the timing of his stopping. And I thought to myself, she's probably just totally filled with fear. She may have lost her job, has no idea when money's coming in, who knows how many factors led to her expression like that. And it just, obviously it's compassion that we have to feel. It's like, wow, like that was the last straw. That was the catalyst for her expressing just how much anxiety she was feeling. So, if I mean, look, I used to have a problem with my temper, believe it or not. When I was a kid, I had such a bad temper, and I think it was because I was just so frustrated because I didn't know what to do with all that I felt was so wrong in my life, even at like 8 years old. And I didn't know how to, and I knew I had to control it because I'd get in trouble if I didn't control it. But yet I knew how fiery it was and how angry I was and how much negative energy I had. It all built up because it was so much in conflict with, my authentic self. And it was like, it wasn't fair to, like, I wouldn't have realized it this way then, but it actually wasn't fair for a child to be exposed to all of this and have to contend with it, and then to be told, actually, you need to just, do what we tell you to do and be well behaved and make us proud. And so I knew that it was a problem, and if I didn't deal with it in some way, I didn't find a healthy way to channel it, I would suffer even more for this temper. So I get these big red bouncy balls we used to play handball with in school, and we had a big brick wall outside the house, and I just throw it at the brick wall as hard as I could. And I thought, this is a tool. I can use this if I really need to. I can just throw that brick wall, brick wall. I could throw that big ball at the brick wall. And for a lot of you punch a bag, you go for a long run, and you may not have the same ability to do some of the things that you've been leaning on for a long time. But my point isn't so much that. My point is that, and that is important, and we should address that. But we all have things that are that if we don't see them and where they came from and accept them and find a way to metamorphosize them into something constructive, they'll take us down, and it will only reflect badly on us, which will make us feel even worse. It's this absolute downward spiral, the snowballing of negativity. So I think I'll stop there for now, but use the mirror and share things with me. We can work through these things. We can work through anything. We just have to identify it and be willing to see what's really going on. So anyway, I'm here to help if I can, and sending lots and lots of love from Cape Town, and hope you all are well, happy, and safe wherever you are. Okay, lots of love. Bye for now.